On behalf of Westmoreland County Community College, I'm Dr. Kevin Copper, and I want to welcome you to this edition of Westmoreland Wellness. This is put together by the students of Phi Theta Kappa, Alpha Upsilon chapter. And I'm so proud of the group of students that has worked together to make this happen. In fact, whenever we began to plan for Westmoreland Wellness last November, we did a brainstorming session, and we wanted to look at what we believed were the most important issues that were facing our community, particularly as we were coming out of the era of the pandemic, which we know has really shown fissures and impacted issues that we already had existing before the pandemic and before the lockdowns. So what we decided to do was to talk to Tim Phillips, who I'm going to introduce him in just a second, because he's one of the individuals that we see in our community that's making a difference. And we want to introduce him to our audience as a resource whenever we cover this very, very critical issue. Now, I tend to say this every time whenever I start this program, but being a professor, by far the best part of the job is the students. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to introduce the members of PTK who are going to do the interviewing alongside me today, and I'll have them say a little bit about themselves. So in no particular order, just actually the order on my screen. Rudy, do you mind going first?
Absolutely. I'm Rudy Rhodes. This is my third semester here. First time being part of PTK, any type of really honor society, if you will. I am here not just as a PTK member, but also as a representative of Strength and Fitness who is working in collaboration with PTK. I am a veteran. I'm actually looking forward to this conversation, this podcast, if you will, as well, because there is a serious issue going on. We've all heard about the opioid epidemic. We've had people who've been affected that we know personally, that are related, that are or have been doing it for a while. So I'm this right here, looking real forward to it, looking at questions, the answers, information to not just learn, but also to spread to people who I know or who may actually need this information for help.
Yeah, Rudy makes an excellent point, and I'm hoping that once we get back on campus that I'll see him in the gym. Of course, that would mean that I'd have to go to it, but I'm hoping that I would see him in the gym. But this is an issue that affects everybody, and I think that Tim's going to speak to that. It doesn't matter where you're from or what state or whether you're rural or city. It's really a human and universal issue, and I think that Rudy spoke to that point. A person I'm super proud of for all the work they've done this semester. Danny, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Danny, everyone, and thank you, Tim, for coming. And I'm a part of PTK, and I'm, I guess you could say, the social media person. So this sounds really interesting, what we're going to talk about here. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and I know that our social media presence has most significantly increased because of your efforts, so I can't thank you enough for that. The person most responsible for organizing today's session is Adrian. And I've just had Adrian, I think that we met before we met because she's a person that is an easy friend. So I've had so much fun getting to know her and working with her over the course of this semester. Adrian, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian. I am the vice president of our PTK chapter. It's been my pleasure to serve in what capacity I could under the current conditions, and I'm so excited that Tim is here. I'm a psychology major at Westmoreland, and I'm transferring to California University after this semester, so I'm kind of sad to go, but super excited to for my next chapter. And thanks for being here, everybody.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm not overemphasizing the work that Adrian put into making this happen. I feel a lot like a professor right now, because my first question for Tim is a three-part question. So I promise that if you take my classes, that I'm not going to make, well, actually I might have you have a three-part question in the form of an essay. So Tim, could you tell us who you are, what your role is with the Westmoreland County Drug Overdose Task Force, and what brought you to this field?
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody here, particularly Adrian, for coordinating this effort. I had a conversation this morning with my administrative assistant, Lori, and I was saying how smoothly this all went. Sometimes that's not the case, believe me, but thanks to you and our organization, we were able to, get everything together, and here we are, live on in social media. So I want to thank you for your efforts, and thank everybody else too for all the good work that you guys have done throughout your semester here at community college. Well, my name is Tim Phillips. I'm the executive director of the Westmoreland Drug Overdose Task Force. Who am I? That's a loaded question, Kevin. I'm a person in long-term recovery. Let me tell you that. I'm going to, try to be provide full disclosure here, and I think all those three questions kind of fit together. I got into this field a long time ago. I got clean, and I had some issues with substance abuse disorder, and I had some problems, and I ended up going to an institution in November of 1988. And I know it's before some of you people were born and all that stuff. Don't make me feel any older than I am. But I got clean. And at that point in time, I had to do something different. And I lost a whole lot of things because of my drug use. And it was time for me to start over and have a new life. And I ended up going back and getting some education and different things. And I got involved in the field of, of counseling at that time. I went back to school and got certified and got my license and all that jazz. And so it was about giving it away, and making some changes, not just in my own life, but in the lives of other people. I've been able to work in different areas of treatment. I've worked in inpatient, outpatient. I ran a private corrections treatment program a number of years ago. I ran a methadone clinic in Pittsburgh for a while. I was the supervisor there. And so I've done a whole lot of different things. And so it's given me a wide range of experience. I've worked with adults, adolescents, and corrections, of course. And so it's been an interesting journey for the last 30 some years. And, it's hard to believe. I don't know where the time goes, but it's been an interesting process. And I'm able to do what I can to invoke some change, hopefully, in people and society and in our community, and do what we can to make our communities a little bit safer. A number of years ago, I want to say maybe, I'm bad with time frames, but probably about 6 years ago, we had some issues in Westmoreland County, and me and some other community leaders were very concerned about the increase in our overdose death rate in Westmoreland County and throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania at that time. The county commissioners and a few of us convened a series of gatherings and meetings. And some of those meetings took place at the community college, and we invited different folks from different disciplines around the county to come and provide some feedback and try to assess the problems, I guess you would say. At that time, we had some nice meetings with hundreds of people. We had coffee and donuts and put a lot of sticky things on the wall, and sticky notes, you know how that goes. But like nothing really ever happened. There wasn't a lot of change coming, and I can be somewhat vocal, I guess you'd say, and I was critical of the process. And I'm a guy of action, and I wanted something to happen. So we talked and we made some decisions, and we convened this task force, and it kind of evolved. We were blessed to get a grant from the Allegheny Foundation at that time to increase the capacity of the task force. And at that point, there was a search, for a director to kind of head this operation. And through that process, I was chosen. And I'm honored to be, that person in that capacity at this point in time. And I think I've been in this role probably for about 3 or 4 years. Let me say that for maybe 4 or 5 years now, I'm not sure, but what happened was the funding ran out from the foundation. I was previously an employee of Westmoreland Community Action. The funding from that source, the foundation funding, had to go to a nonprofit, which was Community Action. I was previously an employee there doing prevention work, drug and alcohol prevention. And once the funding from the Allegheny Foundation ran out, the county was able to pick up our program and funding. I have an office in the county courthouse on the first floor. I'm available when I'm there to assist people in different, areas of concern. I'm a founding member of the Westmoreland County Drug Court team, drug treatment team, and we've done a whole lot of different things, not just with the courts, but also with the county at large. Basically, I kind of jokingly say that my job is to put myself out of a job. If we didn't have people dying from substance use disorder and overdose deaths, I wouldn't have to, be doing what I'm doing. Unfortunately, that's not the case today. I'm concerned about my friends, my family, my neighbors, my associates, everybody. As Dr. Kappa said earlier during the introductions, that this affects all of us one way or another. Substance use disorder does not discriminate, it affects us directly or indirectly. I think most of us by now know somebody who has been had issues with substance use disorder, whether it be alcohol or opioids or anything else. It's a widespread issue, and our tax dollars go to also to incarcerate people, at our county jail for substance use issues. We can't afford to arrest our way out of this dilemma any longer. We need to provide adequate and appropriate treatment. Prevention even is better to keep these people, to keep anyone from taking the first one. The longer we can, evidence has shown, the longer we can delay the onslaught of any of our young people using, the more successful they're going to be. And so we have evidence to show that throughout the years, and there's a lot of research being done. And so I have a concern. I have a passion for this, not just because of my own issues, but because I see this as a big public health issue in the world today. I hope I've answered your first 3 questions in a nutshell. Yeah, that's pretty much it. My role is to bring everybody together in the county to find solutions to these issues. I'm honored to be of service in Westmoreland County. And you know what? We've been able to make some real strides. The year before last, we were able to reduce the overdose deaths in Westmoreland County by 40%, which is huge. But let me tell you, until we're at 0, I'm not satisfied. Every person that we lose is somebody, it's sad. No one should have to die from a treatable, preventable disease. It's ridiculous. And so to that end, we need to do whatever we can do, but it takes all of us. That old saying, it takes a village, is now more true than ever. I can't do it all by myself. My team, we have volunteers, we have a lot of concerned people that assist us in our efforts. However, we need to do whatever we can do in our own worlds as well, to reduce the risk and increase the protective factors to make people safe in our society today.
Well, you more than answered it, Tim. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. And on that that note, you touched on this a little bit already, but so what services or outreach initiatives does the task force offer to the community?
It would probably be better to tell me what we don't do rather than what we do. I'm the kind of guy that I collaborate with a lot of different, not just social service agencies in the county, but also individuals, families, whoever. I'm on call all the time. My phone never stops ringing, unfortunately. Weekends, holidays, people call me for sometimes in crisis, and so to that end, I guess that we are able to be a resource to hook people up to the best services available, whether it's someone who is in need of detox or treatment or whatever. I have a lot of connections with treatment facilities throughout the Commonwealth, and so we can get people hopefully an appropriate treatment. I also do some advising, technical assistance and advising people on different levels. And so professional outreach is also another thing. We provide trainings just to educate people on substance use disorder and issues surrounding that. We work with the employers in our county to provide employment opportunities. Housing is another issue that's sorely overlooked in our county. We don't have enough appropriate, adequate housing for people in early recovery. So we need to increase the capacity for that. We provide a lot of harm reduction and naloxone, Narcan trainings. This is the Narcan we provide, so we can do outreach throughout our community to give people Narcan. And Narcan, this is the nasal spray. And I think there's a question coming up, so I'll get into that a little bit later. But we do a lot of outreach. During the last year around this time, when everything was very being shut down, we had a lot of issues, and we were concerned. I was concerned on how are we going to get back to meeting people where they're at in our community, providing Narcan and these different things that we do, education, awareness, and all that. And so it's about like being creative and thinking outside the proverbial box. I was able to partner with the Western Pennsylvania Diaper Bank. My friend Anna Joyner, who does a lot of great work with the Western Pennsylvania Diaper Bank, was handing out diapers in parking lots in our community. So I would go out with her and provide naloxone, Narcan to these folks as well. And it was amazing to me how many people were willing to take the naloxone, the Narcan, so they had that to bring someone back from a near fatal opiate overdose. I would also hear stories from aunts, uncles, grandmas who were raising their kids, who needed the diapers, and also their loved ones were maybe incarcerated or they were lost because of a fatal overdose, and now they had custody of their grandkids, and the stories were heart-wrenching. But the Narcan that was available was very, very essential in saving some lives. Real quick story: we did an outreach in Trafford a couple of weeks ago, and it was a drive-through. We try to be as safe as we can. And so they were driving through, and I'm handing out the Narcan and doing some education with the cars as they drive through. And the one woman was waiting to tell me. She said, "You know what? The last time you guys were here, you gave me some Narcan. I didn't know what to do with it, so I gave it to my son's girlfriend. He, in turn, ended up purchasing some illicit drugs on the street. He thought they were a prescription pill. They were bootleg fentanyl pills, and he ended up overdosing. She was able to bring him back because of the Narcan that was on hand." We don't always hear these success stories, but that was really, really important for me to know that someone, and I thanked her so much. But this is just one example of why we have to do outreach. You never know. And I would encourage all of you folks, if you don't have naloxone now, to please, have it on hand, get it. Use me as a resource. We can provide you with Narcan. It's very easy to use. It's a nasal spray. It's very minimal, and it's something that everybody should have, just to bring back anybody who you may encounter with an opiate overdose. Outreach is really, really important, Adrian. Education, awareness, advocacy efforts too. Let me say something that is real concerning to me. Our drug supply is real contaminated right now. I don't know if you guys know that, but not just the opiates. We haven't seen straight heroin on the streets of Westmoreland County for a number of years. The crime lab here, when they analyze the things that an overdose scene, what they're seeing is fentanyl and fentanyl analogs, okay? And fentanyl is what's killing a lot of our folks. The problem with fentanyl is it's also contaminating the cocaine, crack, and maybe even the marijuana may be contaminated with the fentanyl. We need to have that. There's fentanyl test strips available. We need to be able to make fentanyl test strips available to the folks who are using illicit drugs on the streets so they can test their drug supply. There's people who aren't opiate addicts who are dying from an opiate overdose because of fentanyl, who were intending to maybe use recreational cocaine on the weekend. We had a case in Pittsburgh a number of years ago on the south side where a number of people overdosed and died because they were using cocaine on the weekend, and it was fentanyl. Fentanyl test strips right now in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are illegal because they're considered to be paraphernalia. And so there's legislation that was introduced by Jim Struzzi out in India, or one of our reps out in state reps in Indiana County, to legalize fentanyl test strips. The advocacy that we need to do is so important about this. You know, our legislators, they don't always know what the hell's going on, believe me. And so we need to educate them as best we can, you know? And so we got to do whatever we can do to save some lives. And advocacy is another big part of what we do. Educating not just the folks in our county, but throughout the Commonwealth. I'm a member of the Commonwealth Prevention Alliance, and I'm a member of a lot of different state organizations who do a lot of advocacy throughout the state of Pennsylvania. And it's important for us to be a united voice, not just about people in recovery, but for people who need to access recovery. You know, that old saying that, oh, you have to be ready before you get treatment is a bunch of crap. You know, we need to be able to meet people where they're at, to provide them with safe, adequate, appropriate harm reduction or medically assisted treatment in order to keep them alive until they can become abstinent, if that's their choice. The system is a mess here in Pennsylvania. I'm just going to be frank with you. There's a whole lot that needs to be changed. Sorry, I get on my soapbox and I start yapping and I'm all over the place, but I have a passion for this, and there's so much that needs to be done. You know, Adrian.
Thank you, Tim. I'm sitting here listening to all this stuff that you're saying, and I'm very just moved. I don't even know how else to put it by the stories you just told and all the things that you're doing, you know, and so thank you.
And I think that dovetails to kind of what Danny wanted to ask Tim about. So Danny, what's your question?
So I know you talked about harm reduction, you spoke about it, but what really is it?
Good point. Basically, in a nutshell, harm reduction is about reducing the harm and increasing the protective factors to allow someone to stay alive, you know? Harm reduction includes education, you know, awareness, and being provided with things such as the Narcan. You know, the Narcan is one thing of harm reduction. You know what? Let's look at harm reduction globally or throughout our society. Seatbelts, harm reduction. Sunscreen, harm reduction. You know, there's a lot of uses of harm reduction in public health that we use every day. The harm reduction that we need to increase in society today with people who have substance use disorder is just simply a no-brainer to me. Unfortunately, the problem is, I think, Danny, is that there's a lot of stigma associated with substance use disorder. And people think that it's a moral deficiency instead of a treatable, preventable disorder. And so basically, in a nutshell, that's, you know, harm reduction is reducing the harm and increasing the, whatever we can increase to save people and keep them alive.
Well, that's interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. I appreciate that, Danny.
If I might add to that, Tim.
Hi, Heather.
Hi. There's countries over in the EU who are passing out clean needles. I mean, there's people literally walking the streets handing out clean needles to people That's a great harm reduction strategy.
We have that here in Pennsylvania as well, Heather, and that's a good point. It's funny when we look at what other countries are doing compared to what we're doing in this country. We have a long way to go here in this country. But I'm happy to say that in Philadelphia and Allegheny County, there is a large Pittsburgh Prevention Point provides a needle exchange, harm reduction, and all those things. They do a wonderful job. I work closely with a lot of those folks there, and they do provide clean works and clean needles for people who may be using injectable, drugs. And it's not just about having clean works, but let's look at the other issues surrounding injectable drug use. Hepatitis C is rampant. HIV and AIDS. When we reduce the risk of those diseases as well, we provide a safer society for everybody. When we start looking, I don't have the figures in front of me here, but when we look at the costs associated with treating somebody with liver failure or HIV and AIDS, a lifetime of treatment, those things can be very, very costly. And if we can provide them with clean work, because these are bloodborne diseases, and they're definitely high risk with the folks who are maybe using illicit drugs on the streets. Yeah, and I think we can take we can learn a lot of lessons from other countries who have done successfully. The stigma isn't so rampant, I don't think, over there. We still have this kind of Puritan attitude here, that this is a moral deficiency, like I said, and not a treatable, preventable issue.
Well, as you know, Tim, the world has been turned upside down as a result of the pandemic. I think Rudy had a question about how that may have impacted all of this.
Hi, Rudy.
Hello. Thanks again for being here and taking these questions. So I'm going to bring you back a little bit to the earlier part of Adrian's question where he said around this time last year. Well, it's been a full year, a little more than a full year since COVID hit. There's been shutdowns, lockdowns. We've seen increases in rates of depression, suicide, violence, you name it. Well, I know I have heard and read that substance abuse can be a cause for some of that, or those can be an effect from substance abuse. So regarding that and the pandemic specifically, how it impacts those things, how has it affected the substance abuse problem specifically in our area? And for overdose rates, how has that impacted the overdose rates?
Well, I don't have specifics as far as the overdose rates for this year yet. We're still waiting on some of the numbers. We anticipate that the overdose rates are increasing. I know the last quarter of the previous year, we saw about a 5% increase in Westmoreland County in our overdose death rate, which was a lot lower than the national average, which was good and commendable. However, I'm very, very concerned, not just with the overdose death rates increasing, but also with the increasing amount of our, as I like to say, unfortunately, the deaths of despair that we're seeing increasing. That means not just overdoses, but suicides and also, different things like that because of people suffering from mental health issues during the pandemic year. People have lost jobs, lost relationships. I mean, it's just been the isolation. All this stuff has really affected society as a whole. And so it's been very concerning. On the flip side, I think, though, that there also are some positives with this. The use of communications and information technology and telemedicine has increased tremendously. And so that's able to connect a lot of folks with substance use disorder in a way that wasn't possible before. Transportation was always limiting people to getting to their treatment or their therapy, perhaps to go to the concert. Now they can go right on the screen like we're doing right now and have telemedicine. Support meetings have increased. I'm a member. I go to Narcotics Anonymous and I attend NA meetings, and sometimes they're virtual, which is a very I can sit in my pajamas and go to a meeting in California if I choose to. It's been really, really beneficial in that aspect. Or some people have been critical of people not being able to have those support meetings. I know for a fact that some people who have not had any experience previously with treatment, who this is they've gone to treatment for their first time, they're able to go on virtually and not only do their outpatient therapy, but also do their support meetings and ease into that rather than going into a live meeting and being kind of nervous and inhibited with all these strange people, and so they can ease into it. And so it's been very beneficial in some areas as well. But yeah, the pandemic has been very, very concerning. I know that we have seen a big increase in overdoses in Westmoreland County. I'm not sure of our death rate at this point in time. I'm still waiting for some numbers from the coroner's office. I work closely with Kenny Bach, our coroner, who advises me on my team as well. And we are very concerned at what's going on. And I suspect too, a lot of that is because of the contamination of fentanyl in our drug supply.
Well, that's all of this. I have so many questions, and I'm learning so much from this. But I know that Adrian, I was thinking like as a parent, whenever you were talking about how maybe a young person would take a substance and not even know it, I was completely unaware there was even a strip that could determine it. I mean, this is just, as a parent, you get so worried about these things. But to dovetail that, I know that Adrian has a question about how you might be able to identify someone that's having an issue.
Yeah, Tim. So how can we recognize that someone is struggling with substance abuse? Because sometimes you just can't tell, and if, we start suspecting something or someone reaches out to us, how can we support someone who's experiencing, substance use disorder or think they might have a problem or, things of that nature?
It's a good question, Adrian. I want to say, first of all, that if you think something may be a problem, it usually is. I believe that a lot of times we tend to want to put blinders on and maybe not recognize the issues, and hopefully they'll be resolved or they'll go away. That's not always the case. Of course, there are telltale signs that would indicate substance use in an individual, but it depends on what substance they're using, like opioids. When I worked specifically at a clinic that treated opiate addicts, I would always look for the pinned pupils. If the pupils are pinned, it's usually the indication the patient across the desk for me was currently using opiates. And that's, was my go-to. Also, signs of an overdose may be, blue lips or blue fingertips and things like that. A lot of scratching and itching happens with people who are using opioids. There are different things that are different substances. I can do a whole hour of training on signs and symptoms, and maybe I can come down and do that sometime for you guys. I could bring some, examples of different things too to look for. However, it's kind of difficult because I'm just thinking right now, Adrian, that in the last couple of weeks, I've unfortunately experienced a couple of losses myself, people who were close to me that we lost because of substance use. And I had no idea that they were actively using. The problem is that, with the fentanyl out there on the streets today, use one time can take you out. The tolerance, I haven't used any substances in a long time, but if I would choose to use this afternoon, one time, because my tolerance is so low, it could be a fatal experience for me or any of us at that point. And so it's a crapshoot. It's very dangerous. I just like to say that initially what I said, if you think something's going on, something usually is. You know, we have indications, changes in behavior, patterns and things like that. When we're close to people, we start to pick up on those cues. And if you, like I said, if you think something's happening, I would question. And the other thing is when you question somebody that you're close to or have you know, a family member or a loved one, you know, don't confront them in a confrontive kind of way. Come to them and say, you know what, I'm a little concerned. I see something that's making me think something's up with you. Can we talk about that? You know, and try to be loving and caring. You know, I don't believe that tough love really works. You know, that'll just drive. I believe this is just my personal and professional opinion that I believe a lot of that stuff drives people away and can be more harmful than helpful. And so I think if we show some general, you know, empathy and concern and love, that maybe we can, you know, try to get to the bottom of this and help them to get to the next level of treatment and help that they need. It's a complex question, Adrian. I wish there was an easy answer. You know, I feel that I'm all over the page with your answer here, but it's the best I can offer at this point.
No, I think you made some really good points. Thank you. I know there's a lot to it, but I agree that people tend to respond with care and love more than they do confrontation. I know at least I do, you know, so that's a really good point. Thank you.
I think if we can keep that in our and be mindful of that, I think that's the most benefit. Yeah. You know, different substances will react in different people different ways. And so it's kind of hard to, you know, pinpoint and, you know, but like I said, we could do a whole training on signs and symptoms someday, and that would be interesting to do too. Yeah. Also, we have.
I think Danny has a follow-up. You kind of referenced a little bit about what Danny showed some interest in asking about.
Yeah, so let's see. So I know you touched upon the signs of substance abuse, but what about signs of overdose, and besides steps besides calling 911, what other steps could you take?
Good question. Well, if you suspect someone's overdosing, I guess typical signs of an overdose would be if you can't wake them up, they're not going to respond or wake up to your voice. I always tell people to do the sternum rub. Take your fist and rub it on the sternum, and that'll get someone's attention. You know, if they're, you know, out or not, and if they don't respond, that's a concern, because if you rub that sternum, you're going to get you can feel that, you know. Also, another sign of an opiate overdose, these are just for opioids now, would be breathing is very shallow, very slow, or irregular, or has stopped. That's definitely a concern. Once I said what I said earlier too, that the pupil would be very pinned and dilated. We call it pinpoint pupils. We also, you know, would say to call 911, administer naloxone, and stay with the patient, stay with the victim until the first responders arrive. A lot of times, you know, in the boxes of Narcan, there is 2 doses of 4 milligrams of the nasal spray. Many times you will need to use both of these. It's not going to do any harm if the person is not suffering an opiate overdose either. So there's no adverse effects. So if someone's having a diabetic issue or something, and they go out because of low blood sugar, and you suspect it's an overdose, and you provide naloxone, it's not going to do any damage to them. There's no harmful effects if it isn't an opiate overdose. And basically, in a nutshell, what naloxone does, what Narcan does, is it just takes the opioids out of the receptors in the brain and allows people to start breathing again. Because that's how people expire from an overdose. Their breathing stops and the body just shuts down.
I think that was great examples. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny, for the question.
Tim, so you have given us so much good information today. And besides what you've already mentioned, what is there any other resources or anything specifically you can think of for individuals who might be here? I mean, because you never know, or, you know, if we have a loved one, you know, available for substance use disorder.
There's a lot of resources available. I can give you the state number if you'd like. It's 1-800-220-1810. And that's a number that can help access treatment if you need to. I'll say that again. It's 1-800-220-1810. Or, you know, call me. I'll give you my number, my direct number. My cell phone, I'll give you that. It's 724-309-4800. It's 724-309-4800. And hang on one second. I have another number for you here. 1 second.
Well, I'll be taking the last question before we open it up to everybody, but this is one that is quite literally so packed with information that I think all of us are going to want to go back and look at it. And we certainly want to tell everyone that we know to take the time and look at this. So Tim, you had one more. I'm putting them in the chat here. So
we have the crisis hotline.
Okay.
Through Westmoreland Community Action. It's the crisis hotline of Westmoreland County. It is 1-800-836-6010.
Okay, and I have those in the chat, and it comes back to me, Tim, for one more question. And when you went and got that, in fact, we need to get those at the college with that number, and we need to provide people to put those on their fridges. I think that's like a no-brainer that we can do once we get everybody back into our buildings. So
I also, excuse me, Kevin, I forget, we have a number too for, well, it's actually a website to get free naloxone delivered to your home.
Wow.
And this is a new effort that we've, you know, helped to collaborate with. Life-saving supplies delivered right to your door. It's NextDistro, NextDistro.org/Pennsylvania.
Okay, so I'll type that a little bit clearer, but you can see it. Pennsylvania, I do know how to spell it. I'm from here. So you can see in the chat there that,
they will, yeah, and what they'll do is they'll just send it right to your home. No questions asked, and it's just a nice, you know, effort. We did a lot of porch drops too during the shutdown. People would call me and I would put it in a paper bag and just drop it off at in their front door if they needed it. And so we, you know, things have evolved so creatively throughout this this pandemic year that we've learned a lot, and so we've been able to provide a lot more harm reduction, I'm hoping, throughout the Commonwealth and Pennsylvania and Westmoreland County.
Well, Tim, before I ask this question, that's a change that I'm going to make immediately. It never even occurred to me to have that on hand. And I think that even though my kids are younger, as they, you know, they're approaching their teenage years now, but you just never know. You could have a sleepover and they could try something and I wouldn't have that on hand. But like, I'm changed. That I'm going to contact that and have that just in case. So if the goal today was to talk one person into making a better decision, me, the host, 100%. I never even thought of it.
I'm happy to hear that. And it's not just the folks who may be using illicit drugs, Kevin. It's also, you know, someone who may be prescribed pain medication, who overprescribe themselves. They too could be at risk for an overdose, you know? So there's a lot of accidental overdoses that actually do happen.
Yeah, there's literally nothing that can be bad about having it, just in case.
Right.
There's no argument against being so happy that you never use it. Like that's I want to get it and never use it.
I hope that's the case. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm changed, spot on for that one. So this one, and we'll open up to some people that are in the group today after I ask this one. What else can we do to help prevent substance abuse and overdoses? And I know that kind of brings it to what, someone like you who has dedicated their life to this and has helped so many people, but what can the average person do? How can we put the onus on ourselves as individuals? I think one of the things is what I just said.
Exactly. It's about being prepared and being as proactive as we can to prevent the dangerousness, the fatal overdoses from happening. Harm reduction, having naloxone on hand, knowing the numbers to call, reaching out if you think something's happening. Usually, if, like I said, if you suspect it's happening, it usually is. Yeah, reach out for some help. There's a lot of resources available. I think it's sometimes real frustrating to navigate the system, however, and so it's important to know somebody who maybe can connect you to the right level of treatment if you are in need of help. I talk to so many people and they'll call me, and they've said that, we've made 6 calls, Tim, and we still don't have any answers. Where can we get some help? And so, through asking a few simple questions, maybe, we can get them to the next level that's more appropriate. Because it does, when you're in a crisis, it can be very frustrating. And so knowing where to go and some of those numbers that I gave you would be helpful to have on hand. The other thing is too, you make me think, Kevin, that you might be the biggest drug dealer in your neighborhood, believe it or not. So take inventory of your medicine cabinet. See what's in there. We have in each police department in the county, I believe there's, I forget how many now, but I know there's one at the county courthouse in the lobby as well, drug take-back boxes. Drug take-back boxes are made possible through the DA's Association of Pennsylvania, and John Peck, our DA, has made these available in every police precinct in the county. And so it's just like a mailbox. You can take your unused prescription meds back there and they're disposed of appropriately. We don't want you to flush them because it contaminates the water supply and all that stuff. So if you have something in your medicine chest, don't keep it. We tend to, put stuff in there, I know, and forget about it. And so, someone can be visiting you and also, use your bathroom and visit the medicine chest. And you, like I said, maybe their supplier for that moment. And so that's just another thing that comes to mind. A lot of folks don't think that way, but I'm hoping you all are mindful about that now. And like I said, we have safe places to dispose of those medications at the police stations. There's one, like I said, at the county courthouse lobby. There's one at the police station in Greensburg, and most police precincts have these drug take-back boxes.
Well, again, I never even thought of that, Tim. And I say with each of these sessions, I'm going to take some questions from people here if they have any, but this is always the start of a conversation. Whenever we do these podcasts and these videos, this is the first time. And this is going to be a start of the conversation that I have with my sons. So even today, just talking with you and hearing about some of these things that I was completely unaware of.
There's a
it's
whole
not
lot
that I
of
live in a bubble, but this really brought everything home. And it's just, I never even thought that someone down the street who wasn't securing their prescription meds could impact some other kid in the neighborhood. It never even occurred. It's just
so
really,
many,
really.
yeah. And let me say too that Google some of these things. There's a lot of resources online SAMHSA, the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Prevention Alliance, Commonwealth CPA, Commonwealth Prevention Alliance. I mean, there's a lot of resources available that has education and talks about just what you're talking about, Kevin, how to maybe talk to your children, how to make your family safer, how to be more mindful and dispose of things that may be harmful in your home. So much is available. Educate yourselves. Continue the discussion too. You know, one-time events don't work so well. Continue the dialogue, not with just your families. That's important too, with your children, but with each other, you know, and support each other. You know, the opposite of addiction is connection. And I think that we all need to have that connection. It's so important for all of us to have some connection with each other, particularly during these crazy times in the world. You know, we all need to have some support, empathy and caring and love for each other, particularly through times of crisis. And so, you know, that's just something to keep in the forefront of your minds.
Well, that's great. I want to see if anyone out there has a question. You can wave your hand at me. I think that Rudy might have one. Heather, you've been a great participant so far too. I'm really glad that you decided to contribute earlier. So, and I'm looking at my second screen here, and we have David and Daniel. So, are there any questions? If you don't feel comfortable using your voice, you can put that in the chat. So, anyone have questions? I think Rudy had one. So we can start with Rudy.
I did. Before I get to that, you're talking about preparedness, having that on you. For anyone here who drives, does a lot of traveling, or even just has a first aid kit in their vehicle, usually first aid kits do not come with naloxone. I know I have a few in my house and one in my truck. So I know for sure that's going to be, at least for this area where I go, that's definitely going to be a nice and probably intelligent addition to that first aid kit for just in case. So that's, yeah, I agree with that for what we can do to help prevent and at least respond to it. But the question I had was more of a general looking ahead, looking to the future. There are a few states, Oregon being one of them, that has legalized at least possession for personal use of these drugs. And obviously we know about the big push for legalization and decriminalization of marijuana, medical, recreational, what have you. So since all this is becoming legalized, decriminalized, I would like to say it's reducing the stigma surrounding it, saying it's becoming more normal. And because it's becoming more normal, it's reducing that stigma, which might isolate people from seeking the help or for people offering the help that could help the person suffering from substance abuse. So with that being said, how does it look moving forward, at least in the future, 5 years, 10 years, even the next year? With that in mind, how does it look when it comes to resources, options, things people can do, what organizations can do, or even just in general, what a user could do?
Okay, Rudy, thanks for the question. I'm anxious to see what the research is going to show with what's happening in Oregon. Honestly, I know that the decriminalization efforts in other countries, and I'm going to talk about Portugal, which I've read, on for some time. Portugal, a number of years ago now, decriminalized drugs in their society. And they have really changed the whole environment there. More people have gotten help. Their incarceration rates have gone down, and so it's really been tremendous how it's changed society I believe, much for the positive. I'm not sure how that model would work in this country. We have Portugal compared to America is there's a lot of differences, and so I'm kind of curious to see what's going to go on in Oregon, to see how it's going to change their environment out there. I am concerned, however, with the talk in our Commonwealth right now about legalization of marijuana. I just think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time before it happens here. Our folks in Harrisburg tend to be looking at tax revenues from this. Let me say too that the marijuana today is not the marijuana that was out there in 20, 30 years ago. The marijuana today is a lot more potent. The stuff, and also a lot of misconceptions with folks in our legislature. They think it's going to curtail the black market, because legalization is going to, that's a bunch of crap. The black market's ready to roll right here now. I look at Denver, Colorado, and I can pay $300 an ounce for marijuana at a dispensary in Colorado, for the type of pot that I'm going to choose to purchase. What's to prohibit me from going down the street at the street corner and getting it from Joe who gives a shit to buy for $100? Same stuff, probably better. Probably better. It increases the black market tremendously. Also in Colorado, the amount of money that they're paying for social costs because of people using legal pot has increased tremendously. So for all the money they're taking in for tax revenue, they're putting out probably 3 times more for the social costs associated with marijuana. It's a concern. It's a concern. I also feel that marijuana, and we have Dr. Eric Koshin at St. Vincent's a number of years ago did a study, and their study was to interview hundreds of addicts in different forms of recovery and treatment and incarceration. One of the findings was very interesting, is that marijuana indeed is a primer drug. I don't think there was hardly any respondents who were using substances now or in the past who didn't start out with using marijuana and alcohol and tobacco. And so those kind of prime the pump. They put you in a situation, whether it's mentally, environmentally, or otherwise, to start experimenting with other substances. And that's the case with most people that I've seen too, in their history of drug use. And so I have some concerns, And once again, I try to educate our folks as best I can. It's not as easy as I wished it would be sometimes, And so please, if you have a concern, write your legislatures, your congressmen, your sen, they work for us. We do a lot of advocacy training too. And, I would, like to, talk about that some more too, but we need to really, mobilize our community to educate the folks about substance use disorder. And so they can talk to the folks making the laws, our policymakers. Yeah, it's real important. So I have some concerns, Rudy.
Yeah, that's about as honest of an answer as you can get, because it's we're focusing on the present, and the long-term consequences of these decisions are going to be played out, and particularly with our kids, the next generation. So,
and why don't we look at the best practices of the other states where it's been legal for a number of years and learn from them? I firmly believe, like I said at the beginning of this question, answering this question is that there's probably a right way and a wrong way to do this. And I'm afraid that, there goes my phone, sorry. I'm afraid that, we need to do it the best way possible.
Well, Tim, you have a very important phone, so I think we can all acknowledge that. So are there any other questions, but before we wrap this up, anybody else that might have something out there? Yeah, Heather.
Can I just swing back to the harm reduction from earlier? Can anyone do the needle exchange in Pittsburgh, Tim, like from any county, or is that just servicing Allegheny County?
Nope. Anybody can, access their services. It's kind of an underground thing. Needle exchanges, once again, I don't know if I mentioned this either, along with the fentanyl test strips, needle exchanges are not legal in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They basically have an agreement with the district attorney in Philadelphia and Allegheny County that they'll just look the other way and won't prosecute.
Could you give that name again? What did you say the name of it was?
Pittsburgh Prevention Point.
Prevention Point.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so this, if we don't have anything, this brings us to about the end. And after I stop the recording, we can all chat a little bit too after that. So I just have to say that it takes a lifetime of service and experience to have someone answer these questions like Tim did. I mean, this isn't from a single textbook. This isn't a college degree. This is a life helping people. And I'm so humbled to be able to spend this hour with Tim. He's made me think completely different about a lot of these things. So on behalf of Westmoreland County Community College, I'm Dr. Kevin Copper, and I want to thank you for attending this session, and especially those that continue to view this session and share it with their friends and family. So thank you all so much.